Perek Ches, Mishnah Dalet. Says the Mishnah, Hatinoikos, children, ein ma'anin oison b'yom HaKippurim. We don't afflict them, in other words, we don't request that they fast on Yom Kippur. However, we do train them a year or 2 years before they become bar bas mitzvah. They should become accustomed to performing mitzvahs. Now, this is a very complicated Mishnah. The Gemara presents lots of different shittos and opinions as to exactly what the Mishnah means. And it's difficult to do it justice, but we'll just try and give the tamtzis hadvarim without quoting all the various opinions of the interpretations. The general rule is, of course, that a boy is not mechuyev in mitzvahs until he is 13 years old, and a girl is not mechuyev in mitzvahs until she is 12 years old. However, prior to that time, there is a mitzvah of chinuch that you try and train the child to keep mitzvahs. So, for example, once the child is clean, from 3 years old, he will start wearing tzitzis. Or we train children to sit in a sukkah, to shake lulav and esrog, whatever it happens to be. However, with regard to Yom Kippur, refraining from eating on Yom Kippur, the Mishnah says, Ein ma'anin oisam, you don't afflict them. Interestingly, the Lashon of Rashi is, Ein ma'anin, he says, Ein chayovim limnoya mehen ma'achol. You don't have to hold back food from them. The Rambam, however, says a slightly different Lashon. He says, Ein risho'in limnoya. You shouldn't hold back food, you should let them eat. However, there is a period when the children get a little bit older that you should start training them in the mitzvah. What is that period? Well, the Mishnah says, Mechanchim oisom lifnei shonov lifnei shnosayim, a year or two, but the way they interpret this is that it's prior to that year or two beforehand. In other words, first of all, the Gemara says, is it a year or is it 2 years? Which one is it? So the Gemara says it depends on the health of the child. If a child is strong and healthy, you should start 2 years prior to his bar mitzvah or 2 years prior to her bas mitzvah, when he is 11 years old or when she is 10 years old. If, however, the child is weak, he has a weaker constitution, is not such a healthy child, then you begin a year before, prior to that year before. So, for example, let's say you have a healthy child, his bar mitzvah is only mechuyev min haTorah when he's 13 years old. Says the Mishnah, you mechanechim for the period before 2 years before that, i.e., when he's 11 years old, before that you should be mechanechim. But it doesn't say how long for. So the Gemara brings shittas, and the Gemara explains that it's a period of 2 years. So that comes out as follows. From the age of 9 for a healthy boy, for those 2 years before he gets to the age of chinuch of 11 in this context, you should be mechanechim to be ma'ana, to not eat on Yom Kippur. For a healthy girl, it would be from the age of 2 years prior to her bas mitzvah, i.e. from the age of 8, from her 8th birthday. For a non-healthy child, we push it off a year, it would be 9 for the girl and 10 for the boy. That's one understanding of the Gemara. One other point, again, what the Mishnah doesn't actually say is how you mechanech them. What exactly, once they hit this stage, how should you mechanech them? So again, there are different pirushim. The Rambam, interestingly, in Pirush HaMishnayos, he just says that don't actually feed the children. When they become hungry, they request food, then you don't have to hold back from feeding them. However, in Yad HaChazaka, in Hilchos Shvisus Osar, he says a slightly different pshat. He says that if the child would normally eat breakfast at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning, you hold it back by a couple of hours. You pushed it off a little bit. So either way, you machanech the child to get him used to regilim b'mitzvahs, to be mekayim when he's older, or she is older, the mitzvah of achila, of not eating or drinking on Yom Kippur. That is the end of Mishnah Dalet.